Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to focus on demystifying one of the most overused, yet, let's be honest, profoundly misunderstood concepts in the whole business world: strategy. We hear it all the time, right? People say, hey, what's the strategy for this quarter? Or we need a brand new marketing strategy. But so often what folks are actually talking about isn't strategy at all. So we're going back to the foundational texts and real-world data to break down what strategic management truly is. Get ready, because we're going to move fast, get super focused, and take a highly structured look at how real organizational success is built from the ground up.
Right off the bat, I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. Is your organization's strategy just a glorified to-do list? Honestly, it is such a common trap. So many organizations treat their strategy like this static document. A wish list drafted once a year and then immediately forgotten in some desk drawer until the next executive retreat rolls around. But a firm without a real, dynamic strategy is quite literally a ship without a rudder. Without that clear, adaptable direction, sure, you might be moving, but you have absolutely zero control over where the currents of the market are actually taking you.
To really understand how high stakes this is, we kind of need to look backward. The word strategy itself, it isn't just some modern corporate buzzword. It actually comes from ancient Greece, the word strategia, which combines stratos, meaning army, and aegein, meaning to lead. Originally, this referred entirely to the art of military command and the conduct of war. It was about pure survival, navigating fierce competition, and dynamic leadership under extreme pressure. And honestly, that ancient root perfectly captures what modern strategy should be. It's not about passive planning. It is about active, competitive survival and leadership in the marketplace.
Okay, let's dive into Section 1, Decoding the Strategy Myth.
Management experts, like Mintzberg, tell us exactly what strategy is not. First off, it's not just a collection of generic goals. You simply cannot copy and paste what your competitor is doing and call it a strategy. A true strategy is a highly specific, custom-fit approach. It's essentially the connective tissue that aligns what your company is naturally really good at, your internal strengths, with the opportunities and challenges just waiting outside your doors. It's the secret sauce that allows leaders to make decisions with absolute confidence, ensuring that the grand, lofty vision debated in the boardroom translates directly into the frontline tasks your employees execute every single day.
Moving right along to Section 2, Why Strategy Actually Matters.
An effective strategy has this really powerful dual nature. It acts as both a stabilizer and a driver. When market disruptions happen, regulations shift, or maybe a new competitor seemingly drops out of the sky, your strategy acts as your primary decision-making filter. It keeps the whole organization from panicking and pulling in a dozen different directions. Instead, it unifies the group, boosts stakeholder confidence, and keeps your resources intensely focused on what actually matters. Let's break down exactly how that looks in real-world action. First, a robust strategy safeguards your long-term gains, because it clearly defines what makes you unique, like why a client should buy from you instead of literally anyone else. Second, it dramatically simplifies priorities. Look, there will always be more ideas than you have capital to fund, so strategy is what filters out the merely urgent to protect the truly important. Third, it improves flexibility. It allows high-performance companies to not necessarily avoid disruptions, but to bounce back from them way faster. And finally, it energizes innovation. Strategy is sometimes viewed as limiting creativity, but that is entirely backwards. A great strategy actually provides a sandbox for your teams, directing their creative energy towards solutions that genuinely serve the company's ultimate purpose.
Which brings us to Section 3, Planning versus Strategic Management.
So, strategic planning is really about setting the goals. It's a formalized, often periodic process, maybe done once a year, that defines your long-term objectives. It asks the big question, what needs to be achieved? But strategic management? That is the broader, dynamic, ongoing process. It takes that initial plan and puts it into motion. You see, strategic management doesn't just stop at formulation. It emphasizes the execution, the monitoring, the adjusting. It answers the how, when, and who. If planning is buying the map and charting the destination, well, strategic management is driving the car, checking the fuel gauge, and knowing when to take a detour because the main road is suddenly flooded.
Now, relying only on planning leads to some classic, frankly dangerous traps, like creating plans that are just way too rigid, or setting a 5-year blueprint and failing to ever revisit it, even when the entire industry shifts right beneath your feet. Another big one is planning in total isolation at the executive level without getting a single ounce of input from the teams who actually have to do the work. And of course, treating the whole thing as a one-time, check-the-box event. Given the sheer complexity of modern external markets, treating your strategic plan as a sacred, unchangeable text is pretty much a guaranteed recipe for failure. Let's move to Section 4 and see how this all builds. The 3 levels of strategy.
Strategy is not just one giant idea floating at the top of the company. It actually operates on 3 distinct, interconnected levels: corporate, business, and functional. Think of it like a pyramid. For a company to succeed, these layers have to align perfectly. If they don't, the organization will literally pull itself apart, with different departments working at cross purposes, wasting incredible amounts of time and capital. Let's look a little closer at each layer.
At the very top, we have corporate-level strategy. This answers the fundamental question of where to play. This is the domain of the CEO and the board of directors, making sweeping, high-stakes decisions about the entire portfolio of the business. Think about the Tata Group. Their corporate strategy involves deciding how to balance massive investments across entirely different industries, from steel to automobiles to hospitality. Or think of Amazon making the incredibly bold corporate decision to enter physical retail by acquiring Whole Foods. These are not minor tweaks. These are foundational identity shifts that shape the boundaries of the whole enterprise. Moving down one level, we hit business-level strategy. If corporate decides where to play, business level decides how to win in that specific arena. This is where individual business units look at their specific customers and figure out how to serve them better than their rivals. Take Apple and Walmart. Apple builds its competitive advantage on premium design and a flawless user experience, right? Meanwhile, Walmart competes relentlessly on cost leadership and immense scale. They are both incredibly successful, but their tactical maneuvering within their respective markets, their how to win, could not be more different.
Finally, we hit the ground floor, functional level strategy. This one answers how to execute. This is where those grand high-level ideas actually crack into everyday work. If Apple's business strategy is premium design, well, their functional HR strategy absolutely must be geared toward recruiting and nurturing the best creative talent in the world. Their functional marketing strategy has to focus on telling a compelling, premium brand story. Functional strategy ensures that the teams in IT, finance, and operations are actually equipped to deliver on the huge promises made by the top brass. Okay, let's wrap this up with Section 5, Strategy in Real Action.
Consider the dynamic tech scene in Bengaluru. There was an AI startup there that wanted to expand globally. Now, they didn't just write a rigid plan and blindly force it onto a new market. No, they practiced true strategic management. First, they researched Southeast Asia, zooming in on Singapore because of its digital readiness. Second, rather than just exporting their Indian team, they built a local team blending regional expertise with their core tech. That is flawless functional execution right there. Third, they meticulously tracked user adoption and finances. And fourth, they adapted. When they hit markets like Indonesia that had high price sensitivity, they didn't stubbornly stick to their original plan. They showed incredible agility, rolling out localized languages and much more affordable pricing. They treated their strategy as a living, breathing practice.
The big takeaway here: when all levels work in sync, companies become more agile, focused, and far better equipped to navigate uncertainty. Effective strategic management isn't about perfectly predicting the future. Literally, no one can do that. It's about building a system of continuous adaptation where the corporate vision, the business tactics, and the functional day-to-day operations are perfectly aligned and constantly learning from the market.
So I want to leave you with this lingering question to reflect on. In a constantly shifting world, is your organization built merely to plan, or is it fundamentally built to adapt? Because as we've seen throughout this explainer, writing a strategic blueprint is just the beginning. The real victory lies in having the strategic management, the agility, and the alignment to actually build the building even while the weather keeps changing. Thank you so much for diving into the fascinating mechanics of strategic management with me today. Take these insights, look at your own teams, and start turning the static plans into dynamic action.